A lighter video this time, for we are going to try and take a peek into the future. The future is a bunch of probabilities and none have happened yet. So in this video, I'm gonna try to isolate which ones seem to me the more likely, as well as try to address the main questions people might usually have. The basis for most predictions will be explained, as I will rely a lot on analysis from what we already have. The video will be separated into two parts, gameplay and story. Pretty straightforward. As a warning spoiler-wise, the gameplay part will have few story spoilers from Limbus outside talking quickly about the Hades or the Mirror. However, I will make references to Library of Ruina mainly, and some to Lobotomy Corp. There will also be Leviathan references. There shouldn't be major story spoilers, but I will talk about characters we know about. For the story section though, I might mention facts from all of Limbus story up to Canto 5's end. There will also be spoilers about the literature works the sinners come from. Not in extensive details, as I haven't read them, but there might be some story summaries or important facts. You have been warned. But before we get into any of these parts, we have to define the space we are working with. Or the time rather. For the first and maybe most important question, how long will the game last? Limbus is a story-driven game, and if we can take one thing from Project Moon's other works and the way they are doing this game, is that there will probably be an end, at least story-wise. Question is, when? For reference, the game's structure and main character Dante are taken from the Divine Comedy, an Italian narrative poem by Dante Alighieri. Yes, it is a self-insert. Gacha from the start. Basically, Dante is guided by Virgilius through Hell to Paradise in three parts, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. The whole thing being told through chants or cantos. So we can start by looking at the number of cantos in the original work, right? There shouldn't be that many. 100. Okay, that's a bit much. We are not lasting 100 cantos, guys, I'm sorry. We are there for like 30 more years otherwise. It is supposed to be a long time life service after all, but planning for 30 years like that seems a bit too long term for us all. Okay, so let's try to divide that in other ways. Surely PM is not gonna deviate that much from the structure, so we may find hints. Well, first is, if you count the side cantos as cantos, this actually becomes more manageable. If they continue their new trend of 2 side cantos per season, we get 3 cantos per season and 9 per year, as seasons seem to last 4 months now. This would make about 10 years to get the 90 we need, 30 more seasons, and around 30 main cantos for 35 main cantos, so about 3 times the number of sinners. Possible. Another way is to forget getting out of Inferno and going for main cantos, but I would not bet on this one, though the result will be approximately the same. One way I like to look at it is through the structure of the 3 realms, as each of the 3 is made of 9 parts, the 9 cycles of Hells, 9 reeds of Purgatory, and 9 bodies of Paradise, plus 1 more for each. Maybe the last one can be the conclusion of the part, and 9 main cantos inside each, making 27, or about 2 times the sinners. Still about 22 more seasons or 7 years. The other last possibility, pretty simple. Screw the structure. We ball with around 12 cantos per part for 36 something in total, and 10 more years, or just 1 for each sinner plus a few more and we call it an end in about 3 to 5 years max. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how long they intend to make this one last. They do want it to be a long run revenue source, but long can have 200.5 meanings. I do think that we will go above the Inferno at some point though, otherwise what would be the point to have a huge Inferno button in the story menu, other than maybe other parts being higher difficulty levels. So I cannot see the game lasting less than 3 more years at least. However, last more and gameplay is gonna be hard to justify, as I'll show later. But to be fair, this question is very hard to answer at the present, and is mainly speculations. They might just, give us another part with a new set of sinners. No, that wasn't a joke. We might be looking a bit too far into the future, so let's get back to the foreseeable one, and dive into gameplay. For references, I'll mainly stop at Season 10, as it's the most guaranteed thing for now. So first, let's talk about this little thing. This is not a lick, I made it. You like it? I do. What is it supposed to be? Let's call it 4 stars. I know that the rarity in Limbus references a couple, with A in and all, and therefore 4 O's can't really exist. However, this is a game, not a full-on translation of Kabbalistic stuff, so they can do 4 O's if they want. But they have been following it pretty well so far, so the argument is valid. However, that doesn't mean it cannot have another name. And for reference, I'll still call it 4 stars. Now, as for how likely I think this is, it seems pretty realistic to me. The main reason being, PM loves tying up lore and gameplay. So as we look further into the city, as a showing of progression, we should fight stronger characters and harder content. And to parallel this progression, we should be getting stronger IDs ourselves. There are some exceptions or edge cases, but in general, characters taken for 3 stars IDs are stronger than those for 2 stars, which is why I like to take W and R Corp as examples. As except Meursault, all 3 stars W Corp members are L3 and 2 stars L2s, and there is no 2 stars R Corp ID. Please PM don't make this age extremely quickly. And the R Corp IDs we have aren't even the leaders, but actual goons. If we get stronger IDs, like actual R Corp leaders, or even just like Section 1 members, would it be fair putting them at the same power level that on Section 4 that we have? Maybe power-wise we'll just never get there, but I'm pretty sure we will be, as they keep adding progression mechanics and main gimmicks each season so far, like Uptie 4 for Season 2 and Vavigos for Season 3. We will have that Red Mist ID. But that's why it would make a lot of sense to get 4 stars or even higher in the future. As for how that would happen, because, gacha. Adding a new tier for pools seems like a dangerous endeavor. Lore-wise they can justify it easily, but mechanic-wise it'd be hard to just accept a new tier, as it would downgrade the others we worked so hard to collect. But for example, just adding it to the pools and increasing the others' rate is possible, or making them specific banners or dispensers only. Another way would be tying it to upties, but that would mean redoing specific upties and harder work for IDs. So it seems hard to put in place, but would make a lot of sense for the game. As for when this would happen then, that could wait a year, as we are not strong enough yet anyway. But it's very possible that it will never happen and those will also be 3 stars, under the reason that IDs are not 1 forward per transition anyway, but it might fall under the overall expectations. Also, while checking the Kabbalah, I found out about Tzimtzum, which is supposed to be a concept between Hor Ein Sof, or 1 Ho in our case, and Keter, linking them. So it's not impossible they use this, maybe as a way to make final IDs for the sinners closer to who they really are. This is a very unrefined idea I got, but I thought it'd be worth mentioning. But now, talking upties. What about it? We got Uptie 4 very quickly. Likely as a fix. But we can't expect to keep having upties every 2 seasons. Maybe 3 at worst. Because imagine getting a new ID. In 3 years, you'll have its preview at Uptie 7 already. You then have to uptie it all up to 7. It might happen, but I don't see more than 9 by the end of the game, and I'm very generous. Heck, more than 5 seems already weird enough. How weird? Gameplay mechanics. How do you justify more upties gameplay-wise? Uptie 4 kind of established, and the higher the uptie, the higher the cost. For Uptie 4, while less impacting than Uptie 3, which still is the gold standard, costs quite a bit more. That doesn't mean there is no way of doing it. They are the creators. They can do whatever they want. If they so wish, W-Don's Rip Space get a 6 coin at Uptie 5. But while on this, what can they add to the next upties? A non-exhaustive list could include, in increasing order, more coin powers, added effects, more coins, more skills, resistance changes, passive changes or additions, tier changes, scene bonuses, I don't know. As I said, they can do anything! Out of those, though, I do think a few are either likely or needed. The most important to me would be the resistance changes. Having fatal weaknesses in a year or 2 seems very hard to deal with if they do harder content, especially for tanks, and seeing ID's resistances change to at least weak would not surprise me. It seems like a natural progression, similar to Runa. I hardly see skills being added, but other possibilities seems more possible. Maybe Rospawner Roja will finally get Tremor Sync, or N-Corp 2000 Nails. As for Threaspins, it's about the same that I said for upties, mainly on resistances or effect. Those skills or coin additions seems even more unlikely, and there is a limit to how many attack weights are justified. And on this one, I doubt there can be higher grades. All those notes make me think we won't have higher than Uptie 5, maybe 6. Maybe the game mechanics will actually stagnate once we get Uptie 5, and that's how it will be until the end of the game, like 3 stars. I do think we'll get at least a 5th tier though, maybe by season 5 or 6. But we might get more, as we need a way to keep spending thread anyway, which we'll gain more of. As for a quick note for egos, the future seems simple. Keep adding new ones and at least one valve each season with the pass, maybe another in the dispenser, until they are ready to release Aleps, which I don't expect until at least season 7 to vary potential game mechanics additions by seasons. Then repeat like they did for valves. One interesting case to talk about though in reference for the future is levels. It seems very likely now that they intend to increase max level limit by 5 each canto/season. What does this imply? Simple. By season 10, we'll be level 75. So where is the limit? Funnily enough, it is easy to see level increase a lot more. Level 100 for a 15th season seems plausible. But that's also why this one seems hard to draw a limit on. They will keep increasing level caps and give us new excavation levels and new tickets. As we'll also get more excavations for threads for upties, and new mirror dungeons for, supposedly, more rewards, even if it doesn't seem to be the case for MD3. The point is, they have means of increasing progression to make a loop of increasing levels and upties for better IDs, to take on higher levels, to get better stuff, etc. Which is likely to be their main progression loop for the duration of the game. Though while excavation are pretty straightforward, mirror dungeons a bit less. For both the structure, which they have yet to fully settle on, and the content. In a few years we'll be able to talk about MD10 with its 20 floors to get the 600 shots per week. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, a 20 floors mirror dungeon did excite me for a bit. But back to the point, predicting it is pretty pointless as long as the system is not settled, unless that's how they want to do it and always change it, but I doubt. My biggest question though is about ego gifts. So far, new abnos are associated with ego gifts, and there are already 80 of them in Dungeon 2. So potentially 80 new abnos, a lot we've already seen in mirror dungeons. And about 20 more are coming with MD3. How much abnormalities are we gonna get? So that's the next point. How much abnormalities are we gonna get? They are a key point of PM games after all. If we get an average of 8 new abno fights per season, number coming from approximation with season 2 compared to this one, this means we should get around 80 to 90 total abno fights in Limbus by the end of season 10. For reference, Runa had around 50 and Lobotomy Corp about 90 with backers. That's already nice, and they are likely to add new ego gifts also in the meantime, so maybe more coming. That's also not counting old abnos that are likely to make an appearance with WalpurgisNacht. Talking about Walpurgis, it is known that they want to do some kind of event. It is unknown what kind, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had old abnormality fights for those events. Some argue that the yield my flesh to claim their bones event might be it, but it is noted as a mini episode, and they said they wanted to increase the number of those, so I do think it is not related. That and also, Walpurgis is supposed to be the boss having a fit, so I'd expect the event staying in the confines of it. However, they did not write the Walpurgis on their roadmap, so we will have to wait to confirm this. As for which abnos it could feature, I'd say Netzach's floor is the only Azia missing one, so Fragment of the Universe for Tet or Porcubus for Hair. Last main gameplay point I haven't talked about yet is Railway. They are likely to keep coming, one per season, with new abnos, but mainly with new mechanics. It is impossible to predict those before getting at least their names, and for the third one coming up... Okay, I have searched the name. It is written in English even in other languages, so it must be a direct reference. But when I type Mirror Clock Orange Road on Google, I end up on Kimagure Orange Road, an old manga about love triangles, school life and psychic power I think, but it's probably not rated. Though if the railway is presented like a manga with paths bringing you to different buffs and fights, I might have a laughing fit. The reference is probably way more for Clockwork Orange, that name also appearing at the start of String Theocracy. It is a book about ultra-violence and atrocities, a perfect fit for Limbus then. How this would translate though, I don't know, outside of us ultra-beating Abnos, or them ultra-beating us. It could be long fight waves or endurance. There's the orange clock part that may be in a clock shape with 12 stations, that makes an orange road, I don't know. And I'm gonna stop the clueless ideas there. And that should be enough about gameplay talks anyway. Now let's get into even less fact-based theories by going into upcoming Cantos. For the upcoming mini episodes, outside preparing Cantos 6 by going into District 20, the first one is likely to focus on not so cute horrors. It could be directly related to Tomery, but it is hard to say. The whole reason coming from Leviathan, Chapter 1, which also makes me want to see Virgilius being like, I don't care about this crap. The second one, Yale my f***, will obviously be related to Blade lineage, and maybe their beef with Kurokumo's. Though how we are gonna get dragged into a syndicate mess is a mystery. Outside maybe some Mirror World related story? It is likely we get some bamboo hat Kim ID there, which fits the poise theme of the Cantos so far. Now, back to the main Cantos. For references, I will take some summaries of the original books the Sinners are from. I can recommend you Last Minute Essays video, all books referenced by the main cast, if you want an introduction to the Sinners' origins. This reminded me that Sinners were also revealed in the Cantos order. Love ya, PM. But starting with Heathcliff. If you didn't understand yet by seeing this short temper, his bat with a massive revenge carved on it, or his overabundance of envy, Heathcliff Story is about spite and revenge. Basically, in his original book, he's adopted, falls in love with his sister, she loved him too but married someone else, poor Heathcliff becomes a rich gentleman, and marries a married sister, and made his son marry Catherine who died child, to get both estates and enact his revenge. But this act being lust and envy is on point. Well, I don't know in which part our Heathcliff became wealthy, but he certainly references Catherine a lot. Though he does say Cathy, which is the daughter's name, but since he talks about love, I'm gonna assume he's still talking about the mother. In the book, he wants her to haunt him until he dies. From the information we have, we know we'll be going to District 20, Teacup's place. So the question is, when does this happen? So far, the book story happened before we came in. So admittedly, we got a supposed to be dead Heathcliff to whom Limbus said, "We can bring back your dead wife." Knowing that we are in Time Co-op District, you know, time, death. But looking at the ID's stories, it seems like we found Heathcliff after he fled from Catherine, breaking his heart, to which the LC would have told him, "You can't find your wife," or whatever. The castle-like structure we see on the heart is likely to be the Wuthering Heights, or the other estate, since we see something else in Heathcliff Hearts. I think it is likely we see Heathcliff having to go through the 5 stages of grief. Probably be prepared for dead wife moment anyway. Then the antagonist of the story can probably be Edgar, the married, or Hindley, the Wuthering Heights owner at that point. Linking it back to Limbus, it might be inside the nest, maybe those guys are T-Corp representatives. Also, about the fish in the room. I am not gonna ship Heath and Ishmael, but PM might. After Canto 4.5, it was clear that they tied their stories together. Both being, you know, revenge related, it can make sense. I thought their relationship would be at an all-time low by the end of Canto 5, to them being best balls by Canto 6 hand. Seems Heathcliff already gave his contribution for Canto 5, so we'll have to see if Ishmael gives the favor back. I won't try to go into other details, as it would just be baseless speculations, but that's about what I think we can expect from the chapter and how my predictions would look like for the next Cantos. Though as a last note, if Heathcliff in last scene uses freaking body sack with like Catherine's body inside, it might be insanely comical. I have trouble seeing body sack being emotional, outside of it being his emotional baggage or whatever. If we keep following the expected order, which is if they don't throw us a curveball that I'm still worried about, Don Quixote's chapter should be next. Don Quixote is, in the original literature, a low noble with incredible ideas of chivalry. In fact, he is kind of insane, seeing everything he encounters as in fables, to the point of, famously, attacking windmills, which he thought were giant mechanical enemies. Our Don Quixote surely fits the description. Though an important thing to note from the book is the existence of Sancho, a squire following Don Quixote in his adventures, as a more skeptical and down-to-earth opposition. In Limbus, Don's ego is named the Blood of Sancho. In Canto 3, she mentions how one of her friends used to beat her up to make her come back to reality. Those tend to suggest that Sancho does exist, or maybe did, unless she talked about the Knight of whatever. From the name of the ego, it is possible that Sancho was sacrificed, and she bears the weight of his death or something. I've seen ideas that she might actually be Sancho, meaning that maybe the original Don Quixote is dead, and she bears his ideals of grandeur, which would explain why she always acts like an overexcited child, but can have some real lucidity moments, maybe even some personality disorder. At the end of Don Quixote's stories, he comes back to reality after being defeated by a man pretending to be a knight, and being bedridden, deathly sick. I don't know where we are going, but I think that the events will take place after Don's come back to reality. Maybe with Don actually dying and Sancho inheriting his will. Truth is, Don Quixote was not the original name of the reference character, but Alonso Quijano, meaning that Don's name might very well be not her real name either. From her heart we can see a Ferris wheel and a merry-go-round, so it might actually take place in an amusement park, which would be fitting. Maybe an abandoned one. The Ferris wheel probably referencing the windmills. The way we see different factions each chapter, I thought it would be a good point to be really introduced to associations, especially because that's what Limbus Dawn Knights are, so we might have story related to maybe Sank or Hana association, or maybe actually Tres with us fighting their inventions or something. I guess the story will end up having Dawn facing the differences between ideas and reality, and how to conciliate both sides, with our final opponent maybe being a high-grade fixer, or windmill. I can also see us having our ass beaten by a color in the story. Supposedly next, Anglu. So Anglu's reference is something. A lot of characters and a long story being a record of an aristocratic clan. Anglu is based on the main character, Jabaoyu, hinted by his jade eye being the stone, and named after the book or a dream he has. I don't really know the plot, but I don't think that's too necessary. They don't have enough text boxes to put the whole thing in. I think I feel sorry in advance for the translation team. However, considering it's about the fleeting nature of the material world and the power of love, I think we can assume that Anglu's memories will guide us through that, especially the difference between his wishes and his reality, or his family's. It is likely that we go towards Anglu's house that we might see at the back of his ego, wherever it is. Considering the power of his family that is often hinted, it is likely we will see what a high-class environment can look like in the city, which we didn't really see much of. In the best or worst cases, we're checking the head. Anglu's story is probably him being raised in the den of vipers his family is supposed to be, having an harem, and being heartbroken by the difference between his ideals and love interest, and the way his family works. Keiko Anglu's story hints at how his grandma, which in the original work is the most important figure in the family, told him to discover the world of something. So he ended up being caught by Limbus. I don't know how the story itself will go though. The golden bow might be in the end of his family. In his artwork we see the gates appearing in the opening of his book, but it's for some sayings about mixing truth and fiction, real and unreal, so outside of a reference at the entrance, the gate probably doesn't mean much. His brother we see in chapter 1 is a malignant minor character revived by the family. I don't have much else to say. It is hard for me to actually come up with anything close to a story for this one, but I guess we'll fight some part of the family at the end. Next for season 7, we should have Ryoshu. Again, location unknown. As for the team though, it is way more clear. Between Ryoshu's art implying the fingers, Ryoshu's whole speech about art, and the wall of Leviathan, it seems clear we will have business with some finger, and it's very likely to be the ring. They might have gotten a hold of the golden bow and exposed it in one of the museums for the beauty of it, or we'll have to search the corridor. However, considering Leviathan's story, it might be the starting link to the whole business of N-Corp. Heavy spoilers there, but in Leviathan we find out the ring is associated with N-Corp, with Gubo showing up and another scientist called Asia. So if we do indeed cross swords with the ring, it might have heavy story implications, with Virgilius too especially. Might be the time to head to the Purgatory already. But concerning Ryoshu's story, Shin Khan's a character that painted atrocities in the name of his lord. Ryoshu is supposed to be the name of the lord, but well, being an artist of atrocities does fit Ryoshu and the ring perfectly. For all we know, she might have been a master. The problem is, what happened and why she left then? For this I don't have much of an answer. Some speculated that like in the story she was a mother, but I don't know how likely it is. She might just have gotten bored of the ring's heart, tried to find new inspiration, and Limbus told her, "You'll have perfect heart," or something. Though when you look at her ego, being wrath, lust, burn with candles, and cold forest for the flames, Her scene is very likely linked to the last piece from the original work where Yoshihide, the main character, paints a carriage burning with inside his daughter to finish the screen. So story-wise something similar might have happened. As if she did have a daughter burning, I don't know. But as for the story theme itself, I love a hypothesis. I have trouble seeing any Ryoshu redemption arc. Following then, Meursault. Coming from The Stranger, book that I should really read one day. Concerning Limbus Meursault, we know that he was employed by N Corp, so that might be where the story leads us afterwards, which would coincide with the ring before. This is even more demonstrated within his art, including N Corp logo. As for the story, the sun is a big factor, which is why I've seen speculations about the sun actually being the light in Limbus, which I really like. During the light phenomenon, where everyone seemed filled with positive emotions, Meursault not feeling this and being judged for something, I don't even know if I can call it a crime. Meursault's character promo does hint at him being judged vehemently by a crowd, possibly for who he is and how he behaves, instead of his deeds if we refer to the original work. The story might be us fighting N Corp to get the golden bow they took, or maybe another place in N Corp, but considering they are the main antagonists right now, it seems unlikely they don't already have what is in their territory. But ending up fighting them while Meursault is having a moment seems weird. As for who we'll end up facing, I guess since Meursault's thing is with others' look and judgment, it could fit with the mirror technology I guess, but outside of a literal crowd or judge, I don't see what there is to face, so it might just be N Corp as their previous boss, as they might have cast judgment upon him. Now, as for the Odyssey. Reading from a character promo, she talks about the Odyssey and how it worked, which I can assume was a smoke war with a Trojan horse and everything. The way Outis talks, the problem seems more like returning home, wherever it might be. It is very speculated that she might have a link with the Hujat and Dias, hinted by profile. If you don't know who they are, you have their page in Runa, but they are also talked about in Distortion Detective. As it will be an upcoming game, I won't talk too much about it, but Outis might have a link with them. I hope Distortion Detective will be out by then. There is almost 2 years until then, so it might. But about Outis, this might be about it for where we are going and the theme. However, if we look in the actual Odyssey, it talks about Odysseus travel back to his home after incurring the will of the sea, Poseidon. So we are either gonna see Outis return home, or memories of that, wherever home is. It being linked to the smoke war though, it might be the time to head to L Corp's district. Not sure about the theme itself, outside of returning home. The road home. Oz. Okay, I'll stop there. We might see some workshops too, since she's a mechanic, but I mainly say that because I couldn't put them anywhere else. We might fight, I don't know, Cyclops, maybe the Ojats actually, or Limbus, or Outis. Where am I going? Well, I have this weird theory. You know how Outis is supposed to be a traitor. I mean, she called herself Outis in reference to how Odysseus tricked the Cyclops. So this might be an hint that she's trying to trick us. So my theory is that she's gonna betray Limbus, and I do mean Limbus. Like she's gonna steal the bows or instigate something, and by the end we end up following her and fighting Limbus, tying neatly into Faust Canto. Why Faust Canto? Well, she's pretty much Limbus Company's representative. Her whole heart and ego are about it with Mephistopheles. So I feel like her chapter has to be tied with Limbus Company itself. Limbus really look like the devil with their promises. So story-wise, a rebellion or at least some form of explanation would be appropriate, maybe with us going through the corridor. However, let's put that theory aside. I even had Meursault potentially serving under Outis at some point, but it's more intuition with their interactions than anything else. Faust herself, in her ego, seems bossed around by shadows, which I thought to be the Limbus hierarchy, but might even be other Fausts. But Mephistopheles being the boss and her creation, it might be what ties her to Limbus. Putting it into parallel with her striving for knowledge and maybe the moment of satisfaction, it might be that she has to follow on Mephistopheles' development and isn't allowed to stop. And when it's complete, she dies. Her whole theme putting into contrast the unending desire and enjoying the present probably. But to be fair, I'm starting to grasp at straws now. This is very far into the future, and the timelines are way too divided to make any accurate attempt at deduction. So I think I'll end by talking about Dante. Technically, he is supposed to be the 10th sinner, and he will probably need some character arc. We might just go back to District 4 to tried to engrave the aspect, and ended up fighting the animal crew once again. Good time to also send in properties this time. Beatrice also needs to be fit in somehow. Other possibilities we clock out and finish distorting or something. Afterwards I guess we're going into Purgatorio if it's not done already, or the game is over. At this point I'm the one distorting. I'm hearing voices. Where are Damian, Rim and others? Later somewhere I suppose. I think it is too soon for us to fight walking Deus Ex Machinas anyway. All those possibilities were fun to come up with, it's always a good thinking exercise. Also learning more about the original works is nice, and it might make me enjoy the upcoming Cantos even more. All those predictions were mainly for fun anyway, to see how wrong or right I am by the end. I'm not betting my life on them. But you know, if I'm wrong, I enjoy unexpected stories and have a good laugh, and if I'm right, I get bragging rights. I love option selects. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. Final message, PM decided to release Mirror Dungeon 3 while I was writing this, so that should be my next video. I'll start preparing it once the art version specificities are announced. They are doing quite a bit of changes, so I think it's worth talking about. But for now, thanks for watching, see you next time, and keep your sanity high in this slow descent into the inferno.